If you're wanting to beat the heat, make sure to stay inside and listen to the Tiger Rag Audibles podcast, available on YouTube and TigerRag.com. We're here again with another episode with your host, Pierson Luscy. Coach Kelly spoke to the media on Tuesday for the first time post-scrimmage, and we broke it down so you don't have to. We're going to have Tiger Rag editor Todd Horne and Louisiana Radio Network's Jeff Palermo talking about what Kelly said. And later on in the show, we're going to go over a list of projected starters for the 2023 season and what you'll see against Florida State. But later on in LSU season, in their schedule, they go to Starkville and Oxford, Mississippi in the span of just 3 weeks. And if you don't want to make the trip back to Baton Rouge, especially with this traffic and this heat, because of the drive, we have something for you. Pawpaw's Campers and Cars has RVs, tractor trailers, and many other vehicles to choose from to help you on your travel needs. If you want to know more information, go to pawpawsrvs.com or call them at 1-800-728-CAMP. Once again, that is 1-800-728-CAMP. That's a good RV, Pawpaw.
Hey neighbors, we're not that far from where you are. Make that short drive to Pawpaw's Campers in Picayune and see our Wildwood, Catalina, Sportsman, and Zinger trailer lines and our Rockwood and Heritage Glen fifth wheel lines. From Houma to Hammond, Biloxi to Jackson, and Mobile and Pensacola, we're not that far from where you are. Come and see us.
You're gonna love the way we deal. Pawpaw's Campers City and Picayune. You're gonna love the way we deal.
Jeff Palermo, along with the assistant editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, William Weathers, and joining us now as well, it's Tiger Rag editor Todd Horne, who heard Coach Brian Kelly speak about an hour ago as we're getting closer to that season opener against Florida State. Jackson Blackman, our producer, glad he could join us on the show. Tanya Johnson, the LSU volleyball coach, also set to join us a little bit later on in this hour, but we'll be talking some football. We'll get some more baseball talk in there as well. Kind of look ahead to the 2024 season as the 2023 fall roster is out. A bunch of left-handers on that pitching staff, but before we get into that, let's talk a little football. And Todd, welcome into the studios. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Good.
Coach Kelly a little late. Now, no classes at LSU today because there was a power outage this morning. It impacted kid today. Is that what kind of backed everything up today, or was it just?
Well, Coach Kelly's. It wasn't necessarily a direct explanation of why the press conference was starting about 32 minutes later than it was supposed to, or was originally scheduled to. But he did explain that because the power was out, they didn't even practice today.
Oh, really?
They did. He was joking.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
That they didn't even practice today because he was out working on getting the air conditioner ready for the media conference.
I get it. He was trying to be.
Suffer. Yeah, so he was trying to be funny.
Okay. Well, did the joke land?
Yeah, a little bit.
Where are we at injury-wise? Did he give any kind of an update there, Todd?
He did. So first and foremost, foremost in my mind, because it just stood out that Sage Ryan was playing cornerback during the 43-play scrimmage. Obviously, he wasn't out there for all 43 plays, but he looked like what could have been, at least I thought it was a pretty severe injury.
Yeah, it
he
did
was
look
down
bad.
for about 4 minutes and then walked out with his left shoulder looking paralyzed.
Hanging a little bit.
Yeah, and hanging. Good description. He's fine. He practiced today. Kelly said it was just basically a stinger.
Good.
And he's there. All the running backs, Josh Williams, Armani Goodwin, and Logan Diggs were full go today at practice. They missed the scrimmage, basically doing sprinting and jogging on the sideline the whole time during practice on Saturday. So they're good. We don't know about Mason Smith.
Yeah.
That question was not able to be asked. Kelly came in, talked for about 10 minutes, and then bolted.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Mason Smith is really the big one at this point.
Yeah. And, I mean, both William and I watched him on a regular basis during the practice. And I tend to think, and again, this is just my opinion, but I think they're just taking it very carefully, being extra precautious with him right now. He was working the heck out of those exercise bikes during practice. I mean, really, they had like 5 of them lined up together, and he was beating the heck out of that exercise bike. He was fully dressed out, but I did not see him take part in any drills at all during the regular practice. And he certainly didn't participate in the scrimmage at all.
No, he didn't. So really, at this point, and again, we still got a little time here before the season opener, but the one significant injury of camp, J.K. Johnson?
It's the only one that I'm aware of.
Fractured legs, fibula, something like that?
Lower leg.
Lower leg injury.
Yeah,
he's going to
right.
be, and he's out indefinitely.
I think the official description is lower body.
Okay.
It's either upper body or lower
I know.
body.
Definitely lower.
Right.
Yeah.
It's definitely lower, and I think it's the left leg, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Left ankle.
So, but that's pretty, I mean, heck, that's very good.
Yeah, it's good. And there was also some other interesting tidbits that did come out of it in addition to all the running backs being back. You know, everybody was amazed with the performance of
Caleb Jackson
on Saturday, and the 18-yard touchdown run and the 75-yard screen pass from Garrett Nussmeier, where he ran 21.4 miles per hour down the sideline. And Kelly talked about how not to take anything away from the youngster, but not to get overexcited about it. He couldn't tell if it was really a good run or bad tackling. And he also said that he's still a freshman and he's got a lot to still embrace. In other words, he's got great skill. They're very excited by his talents and his skill, but he's still got to develop. He's got to learn how to pass block. He's got to learn how to do other things to contribute offensively, which take more time to really understand.
One of the things that has not been settled, and I don't know how you can settle it because I don't know how much you can really work on it, especially when you're trying to avoid injuries, is which one of these guys is going to, or which out of the, I mean, you got 8 of them. I think I think you'll be going into games really counting on 3 of them, right? I mean,
Well, yeah, I agree with that. And if it were me, again, this is me making the calls as a coach. I mean, you can't unseat unless it's because of lack of participation, Josh Williams. You can't discount Logan Diggs. And, I still lean heavily towards, John Emery Jr. because of his game-breaking ability.
Right,
but you can't count out Armani Goodwin either.
No.
So Kelly's on the record as saying he thinks experience is going to rise to the top. Those 4 guys have experience, and I would anticipate you're going to rely on those.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But if you have injuries and so forth, I think you liked what you saw, at least that little bit of a flash there from Caleb Jackson. Speaking of true freshmen, what did Coach Kelly say about Zalance Hurd? Because that was one of the storylines coming out of that scrimmage Saturday, was watching him take reps with the first team at right tackle.
So the biggest thing I got out of what he said today about Zalance Hurd is that Zalance Hurd is definitely still in line to possibly start, but that he, as a freshman, still has a lot to deal with. It basically, he's making great progress. Kelly's looking for the top 5, 6, and 7 offensive linemen. Zalance Hurd last year, as a senior in high school, was 95% of the time he was just overmatched with his opponents, and right now he's having to face Savion Jones on a regular basis, and it's kind of an eye-opening experience for him. But the overwhelming feeling I get is that you're going to see Zalance Hurd at right tackle, not necessarily as a starter, but getting a lot of plays during possibly as early as Florida State. And then, we're going to see who else fills out 6 and 7, which I think right now would probably be Lunsford and Marlon Martinez. That's what I would think based on what we're looking at.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But if they put Hurd at right tackle for any plays, they're probably going to move Emery Jones to right guard, which is what they did on Saturday.
Yeah. It's but still the fact that guy has already, and we haven't even played a game yet, that he's been able to at least crack the starting 5 in reps in practice, I think is pretty impressive.
He's a giant behemoth that looks like your typical pro right tackle, and it's hard to believe when you look at him on the field and you watch how he performs that he's a freshman.
Yeah.
But there's so much more that goes into that. That you have to learn what to do in certain situations, what to pick up, and the talent level, as Kelly said, is so much higher that it's a gradual
thing. Yeah, for
usually.
sure.
unless you need it like you did last year.
Yeah. Anything else stood out from what Coach BK had to say?
So one thing I thought was interesting was that they're going to go through some Florida State prep as early as tomorrow, but they're really going to gradually work up to it so that they're in the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday routine, which is his typical weekly routine for game planning and going over the game plans for their opponents. And he's basically going to have 2 weeks to do that, so he's very comfortable with that timeline. He seemed like he was really comfortable with the way everything's going and really happy with the way the team is progressing at this point. There was nothing major that was negative that stood out. There were no major concerns. So he was in a good mood.
I mean, they've avoided injuries. The offense has performed well. You got true freshmen stepping up. Not only just Zalance Hurd or Caleb Jackson, but Ashton Stamps, a lowly 3-star recruit, has found his way into the two deep. I mean, there's just been a lot to like from what you've seen.
Yeah, and he revisited today the Harold Perkins soliloquy that we've heard over and over again, that last year they just moved him around based on the opponent they were facing so he could be a ball-stalking pass rusher, and that now he's really learning the game. But he talked about what a high IQ he has and how well he's progressing. So, again, everything positive.
Yeah, it's been hard to find much negative at all. What did you think of the fact that looks like they are going to give a player the number 18 jersey and a player a number 7 jersey?
As early as this week, but no hints as to who it might be, no comments on that, just that possibly by the end of this week they'll name that. So what did I think about it? I thought it was interesting because I didn't think they were going to do it at all because they had put it off so long. And it wouldn't hurt my feelings one bit if they didn't do it, but apparently it's still a deal. So they're going to.
For number 18, I wonder how much pressure he's gotten from the former guys that have worn number 18, that they want to see this tradition continue.
Well, I would imagine quite a bit, especially coming off of the fact that 200 or so of them were gathered for the scrimmage. And there was no explanation, by the way, which is a little pet peeve of mine, that they didn't have a 60 or 70 play scrimmage. Yeah. It was only 43 plays. So there was no explanation about that. No one had the opportunity to ask. But I, to your point, I would say that they probably did get some. Yeah. He probably did get some feedback from former players about that on Saturday.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think that those guys, the guys that are former number 18s, it means a lot to them.
Okay, so who's it going to be? Who's going to be number 18 on offense?
I think Josh Williams, I think, is a candidate and a prime candidate.
You've mentioned Greg Brooks.
I think Greg Brooks is Greg Brooks has had to battle heat-related sicknesses or illnesses, vertigo specifically, for the first 2 weeks of camp, but he's making his way back. Participated fully in the scrimmage. He's looked good. He's clearly the leader, along with Major Burns, on the defense. And I do think he's a great candidate for the number 18.
I hope they only give out one 18, though.
They're going to give one absolutely. On the offense and defense.
You think?
They always do.
Not always. Not always.
Well, they have.
They have done it. There's precedent for it. That's for sure. Number 7, to me, it's got to be Malik.
I don't think that they should give number 7 to anybody. I do think Malik Neighbors is the best player on the offense. But I don't think, I don't know. I just get a bad juju feeling about giving number 7 to somebody.
Well, when that guy struggles, it doesn't, as Kayshawn struggled. I mean, it's tough,
Yeah. But whoever gets it, more power to them.
All right, so here we are. We're getting close now with Florida State right around the corner, and then we can really start breaking down this matchup. Anything else, Todd, before you head out?
I'm trying, kind of looking over my notes. He did talk about Chris Hilton.
Okay.
He said he's really very pleased with the way he's mainly stayed healthy and is consistent, and he's improved his catchability.
Yeah.
I think that was important. And, he talked about the one of the things I thought was interesting, and we'll probably see a lot written about it over the next couple of days, is the fact that he's explosiveness on offense is what he's after, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go 20 or more yards downfield in terms of deep passes.
Yeah.
And he referenced Alabama's 2020 offense as being get it in the hands of your playmakers and run.
Well, that's where Aaron Anderson comes in, I think. I mean, that's who you want to.
Hey, that was the first guy I told you about.
Yes,
on
it was.
The first day.
Yes, it was. You called him a bad man, I think. All right, we'll take a break. More of Tiger Rag Radio when we come back.
Cummins is known for their commitment to quality performance.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo, along with the assistant editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, William Weathers, as Todd Horne has left the building. He's going to get the story up about what Coach Kelly had to say here shortly. Jackson Blackman, our producer here tonight, we've been talking about the fact that Coach Kelly mentioned he's going to be giving out the 18-7 jerseys once again. There was a question mark on whether that was going to continue because I don't want to misquote him here, William, but I believe he had said that he was maybe not all that interested in continuing that tradition.
I think you're right. I think that's what people felt like, maybe this, you kind of trust everything he's done as far, creating and shaping a culture, and that, he has respected, the traditions, the white jerseys, and that would be one that he may choose not to recognize. But,
and the number 7 one is a little bit tricky because it has fizzled out on times. Kayshon Boutte. You can almost even say that with Leonard Fournette, the way it ended for him here at LSU. And then Jonathan Giles was that was the one we were thinking about earlier, the name that was escaping us. The Texas Tech transfer that Ed Orgeron gave him number 7. And then it just went so bad for him. He wasn't getting any playing time. They took number 7 away from him so that's the situation. But if you give it to Malik Neighbors, the guy who led the SEC in receptions last year, there's a safe bet that the guy is going to come through and he's going to have a pretty good season as long as he stays injury-free. Speaking of the handing down of jersey numbers, Hayden Travinski will wear number 8 next season for LSU baseball. How about that? Gavin Dugas has worn the number the last couple of years. Travinski's going to get it. And Travinski, when you look at it, the same 3 catchers are coming back, right? I mean, you're going to have Brady Neal.
Healthy.
He'll be there. Milazzo is going to be back. And you'll have Travinski. But Travinski, there's a really good chance, even if he's not the catcher, that he's going to be your DH next season. Yeah,
you would think based on that sample size of what he showed,
right,
and that he can bring to your team. And I'm sure after the fall, then there may be several candidates that could play the DH role. But boy, when Hayden's going well and is really in a good groove, and you got to think about where some of their power is going to come from next year. He would definitely would be an asset to be in that lineup.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you're right, because in the month of May, especially when this team was, there was a point there. I kind of remember, Cruz hit a little bit of a slump.
He did,
Jared Jones was basically sent to the bench at that point. They moved Trey Morgan back to first, and they were kind of searching where that power would come from. Trey Morgan is not a home run hitter. Dugas didn't hit as many home runs late in the season as he did early in the season as he was battling that shoulder injury. So, they were kind of struggling there to find out where that power would come from, and he gave it to him. And I just think I think it's just a great story with him, as it is with a lot of the guys on that 2023 national championship team. Someone that was just, buried basically on the depth chart there, and then comes up, hits a huge home run against Ole Miss, and there he goes.
Yeah, it's a very nice kind of a reclamation story that you can go that deep into the season and still have the wherewithal to kind of flush what happened before and recognize what's in front of you and just be such a great teammate that he stepped right in. And maybe there's a deficiency out defensively that you don't maybe have quite with Alex, but he, talking about Hayden, can give you enough defensively to compensate with, because his bat was just so lethal.
Yeah. So we'll see how that works. But the fall, I want to get into this a little bit more later on. We're coming up in the next segment, and we got to hit a hard break here. But we're going to hear from Tanya Johnson, the volleyball coach for the Tigers. They open up the season this weekend. So we're going to get to that interview here coming up shortly. But want to kind of go over the roster, especially take a look at the pitching staff. In particular, but when you look at the 2023 fall roster, man, just and
also consider, Tommy Tanks will be coming off his shoulder surgery.
Yes,
he will not be participating at all in fall ball. So, you got to give him a benefit of the doubt that he's going to come back.
Yeah, he'll be ready.
When does he get, back to the guy that you saw who just tear the cover off the ball?
But looking at the roster, there's just so many new names here. When you, especially when you have a special team like you had last year. Somebody's got Stephen Malam. Who the heck is that? Right?
Number one player in New Mexico.
No, number one player in New Mexico.
Last time it worked out pretty good. A guy from Albuquerque came here, but he's that kind of, they're going to be searching for a middle infield.
Right.
And how's he going to fit in? You got to replace Dylan Thompson.
Jaden Newt. I can hear the LSU fans now screaming now, Newt, when he strikes out the side or something like that. Of course, Luke Holman, the Alabama transfer. I don't know if I'll be pronouncing this name correctly. Fidel Uola.
That was an interesting. I did not know that signee.
Yeah,
that's a. Is that a junior college?
Junior college,
kid?
Yeah.
But he was pretty.
San Joaquin Delta College.
He definitely, he being Jay Johnson, definitely knows that this is a team that's going to be built on pitching next year.
MJ Seo from Texas, Caleb Appleby from Mount Carmel, Illinois. My old neck of the woods there. Griffin Cooley from Kinder. Dallas Dale II. So just
well, don't forget the guy from IMG.
Yes. Well, I want to get into that a little bit later
That's
on.
Guys, he didn't think he would be even showing up here.
Yeah.
He did.
But you're talking about Cameron Johnson, the 6'5", 240-pound left-hander from Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Got to get into that here shortly. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little volleyball with Tanya Johnson, the head coach for the Tigers. We'll be back after this here on Tiger Rag Radio.
Back with the Tiger Rag Audibles podcast. Todd Horne is joining us here again today. LSU is beginning to shift their attention to Florida State, and Coach Kelly said in a press conference that there's no depth chart, but he said to maybe submit our own, so that's what we're doing here today.
Yeah, that's what he said at the beginning of camp. He said, he's not particularly not a person or a coach that particularly likes depth charts. At the time, he kind of promised he would have one, not promised, but said he would likely have one by this point in camp, but as of right now, he does not.
That's why we're here.
And he did ask for the media members to go ahead and formulate their own after watching practice and submit it to him, so that's what we're going to do. I feel really confident about ours, except for maybe a couple of positions. We'll talk about those specifically when we get to them.
So to start off here, we have Malik Neighbors as the wide receiver number one.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Malik Neighbors is poised to have a tremendous year. He's had a great camp.
Preseason All-American. It makes a lot of sense. And then second on the wide receivers, we have Brian Thomas.
Absolutely. Brian Thomas started most of last season at that same position, and he's had a solid camp as well. I also look for him to have a good season.
Filling out the wide receiver group at wide receiver number 3, we have Kyron Lacey.
Kyron Lacey has really come on strong starting last spring. He had a tremendous spring. He carried that through a great summer, and he's had a tremendous fall as well. I do expect him to split some time with Aaron Anderson, especially when they try to put the transfer from Alabama, who was the number one recruit in 2021 from from Louisiana, into the slot. They're going to try to get the ball in his hands, and that's the most likely place for that to occur. So expect him to be alternating with Anderson, Lacey and Anderson to be alternating.
Protecting the quarterback's blind side at left tackle, we have Will Campbell.
No question about it. Solid freshman season, and he's looked great all camp. I look for him to probably be an All-American this year.
That's great to hear. And at left guard, we have Miles Frazier.
Yeah, that's where it is right now, Miles Frazier, and he's had a solid camp as well. But they're still tinkering, I think, is the best way to describe it, with the offensive line, looking for some potential changes as the season moves on. But right now, when they line up against the Seminoles on September 3rd, I think Miles Frazier will be the left guard.
Charles Turner III is at center.
And I think that's pretty solid right now. He's also in a tight battle with Marlon Martinez, but right now Charles Turner's the man.
And right guard, Garrett Dellinger.
Several starts last year. Actually, if you'll recall, opened the season last year against the Seminoles as the starting center, then moved to guard for the rest of the season. And he had missed a couple games due to injury, but was back. So he's had a good spring as well and a good fall as well.
Rest of the offensive line, we had right tackle. We have Emory Jones Jr.
Yeah, and Emory Jones Jr. was another freshman, of course, who had a great season last year. He's had a solid camp. As LSU's offensive line develops more throughout especially the early part of the season, we could look for him to possibly move inside to a guard position to make room for Zalance Hurd. We've already seen some of that in the scrimmage on Saturday. I don't think they're ready to pull the trigger on anything like that, but be on the lookout for that type of change moving forward.
Back to the skill positions, we have at tight end Mason Taylor.
Yeah, no question. Outstanding freshman season. Of course, had the touchdown catch against Alabama, then the 2-point conversion to win it in overtime. Had a solid season and has continued to improve his blocking skills as well as his pass reception ability, and he's gained about 10 pounds. So look for a good year from Mason Taylor.
Offensive signal caller, Jaden Daniels at quarterback.
Super solid camp. Has improved his accuracy. He's reading the defenses really well. He still has the ability to run. He's gained about 10 pounds, and he's currently odds-on favorite, number 2 as a quarterback to win the Heisman, meaning he's the second-ranked quarterback in the Heisman race right now behind defending current Heisman winner Caleb Williams.
He'll definitely have a shot at it this year. And filling out the offense, Noah Kane at running back.
So this is the Horne of plenty. LSU is rich with 8 running backs right now, 8 scholarship running backs. Noah Kane has got the bulk of the work due to injuries and missed time from Logan Diggs, Josh Williams, and Armani Goodwin. I look for Noah Kane to, this could change as they move closer over the next 2 weeks to Florida State, but I think Noah Kane has had a solid camp, and I think he'll maintain that start.
And so now we go to the defense at defensive end, Savion Jones.
Super strong fall, drawing raves from the coaches. Feel real good about that.
And preseason All-American at nose tackle, Mekhi Wingo.
No brainer.
Oh, that was easy. Defensive tackle, Mason Smith.
So Mason Smith obviously is a game changer, a playmaker, a beast, and the only reason he wouldn't start in that position is some nagging injuries. I think they're being, as we've talked about over and over again, precautious with him right now. They held him out of the scrimmage, but he was in full pads. I think you'll see him primed and ready to go, and I look for him to have an All-American season as well.
At the jack position, we have Ovi Ogufu.
Transfer from Texas, seems to have a solid hold on the jack position right now.
And so at strong side linebacker, we have Harold Perkins.
Best defensive player in America. Last year, he basically played jack, moved around. His goal was to sack the quarterback. Now he's learned how to play inside linebacker, and he drew raves from Kelly yesterday in an interview for the way his football IQ and how he's grasping the position, pass coverage, gap control, everything. So Harold Perkins is primed for another great season.
Another great defensive player at weak side linebackers, Omar Spates.
Yeah, I've talked about it a million times probably, but he's amazed me with his speed, his physicality. He's basically, I wouldn't say he's as impressive as Harold Perkins, but he's close, and he's doing well.
Now in the defensive backs, we have at left corner, Zy Alexander.
So Zy Alexander is the transfer from Southeastern, and he is a long, lengthy, very athletic, strong in coverage, and has shown just increasing physicality. Been very impressed with him, as the coaching staff. Kelly remarked about him at length yesterday. Had a great scrimmage on Saturday, forced a fumble, had a pass breakup. He's solid. he's your starting left cornerback.
And now in the safety room, we have Major Burns at strong safety.
Yes, just had, as long as he stays healthy, he's had injury problems last year, but he's been healthy and strong. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster, and he looks really good.
At free safety, we have Greg Brooks Jr.
This is Greg Brooks Jr. has a football IQ that is out of this world. He anticipates things. He had a tremendous season last year, elected to come back. He is the vocal leader of the secondary, and he has had a solid camp when he's been able to participate, because he did have some issues with vertigo.
And opposite of Zy Alexander, we have at right cornerback Sage Ryan.
Sage Ryan, of course, you'll probably remember 3-4 years ago, was one of the top recruits out of the state of Louisiana. Has not met expectations so far in his career, but he has moved from safety to playing a lot of reps at cornerback. He actually started at cornerback in the scrimmage. Drew raves from Kelly yesterday in the press conference about his physicality, his ability to tackle the ball, his elite speed, and his coverage ability. So I look for him to be the starting right cornerback.
And filling out the defense at nickelback, we have Deuce Chestnut.
Yeah, so Chestnut was who I would have had as the starting cornerback, with maybe Ryan at the nickelback, but I guess they've kind of flip-flopped, and that's my pick right now.
And we didn't forget about special teams. At kicker, we have Damian Ramos.
Ramos and Nathan Dilbert. Dibbert. I always say Dilbert, like the cartoon, but it's Dibbert. We're locked in a tight competition, but I believe Ramos has distanced himself with a good camp. So, yeah, I'm going with Damian Ramos right now.
And at punter, we have Jay Bramlett.
No-brainer. Transfer from Notre Dame, did a great job last year. I was kind of surprised he came back for a fifth-year senior season. But he's had a solid camp, and he's your punter.
And long snapper is Slade Roy.
Solid camp, important position, done well.
And at kickoff specialist, we have Nathan Dibbert.
So Dibbert is still obviously the kickoff specialist. He's been holding down that number one all camp, and I don't see any threat from Ramos, who is the number 2 kickoff specialist.
And last but definitely not least, we have at kick returner Aaron Anderson.
Both kick returner and punt returner for Aaron Anderson, and this is just huge for LSU, because this kid is supremely talented. I've raved about his ability to be elusive and explosive, to stop and start, just freeze people in their positions. He can catch the ball. He has bobbled it a couple of times in camp, but they have a lot of confidence in him, and he's going to change the game, or several games, with his punt return ability, as well as possibly his kick return ability. But I look mainly at his punt return ability.
LSU football doesn't have an official depth chart yet, but we have our own depth chart. So what do you think of this team just going into the season?
Well, you just see my depth chart right now. So I think this team is extremely solid. I think they do have depth. We didn't go into any real depth. We'll talk about that as over the next couple of days. That's actually what Kelly said yesterday he was focused on right now, and in the scrimmage on Saturday, and that was identifying and solidifying the players that can contribute right now versus the one who needs some more development. So we'll go into that a little bit more over the course of the next few days here on this podcast and on TigerRag.com.
So make sure to stay up to date with all the latest episodes, but we're going to take a quick break, and don't forget to check out Pawpaw's Campers, Cars, and RVs, and make sure to go to pawpawsrvs.com or call them at 1-800-728-CAMP.
Hey neighbors, we're not that far from where you are. Make that short drive to Pawpaw's Campers in Picayune and see our Wildwood, Catalina, Sportsman, and Zinger trailer lines and our Rockwood and Heritage Glen fifth wheel lines. From Houma to Hammond, Biloxi to Jackson, and Mobile and Pensacola, we're not that far from where you are. Come and see us.
You're gonna love the way we deal. Pawpaw's Camper City and Picayune. You're gonna love the way we deal.
That's a good RV, Pawpaw.
We want to thank everyone for joining us today and Todd Horne for coming back on the Tiger Rag Audibles podcast, brought to you by Pawpaws Campers, Cars, and RVs. Week 0 is fast approaching, and Coach Kelly's former team, Notre Dame Fighting Irish, is facing Navy in Dublin, Ireland. If you need your football fix, and I don't blame you, you can watch the game over the weekend to get ready for the official kickoff of college football for Week 1. Thank you for everyone for joining us once again, and if you didn't get enough of the Tiger Rag Audibles podcast, don't worry, we have more players who will be speaking to the media, and we're not sure who yet, but we'll be ready for whatever comes our way. Thank you once again for joining us, and we couldn't do it without you guys. See you next time.